Hello, NC teachers, and welcome back to ECI 475, which is peer mentoring in alternative licensure. This week, we're going to close out on Ruby Payne's ideas and take a look at Eric Jensen and Carol Dweck's ideas on helping students in the classroom, helping them grow, and that's what growth mindset is all about. And then we're also going to take a look at your PLCs, your professional learning communities, and which groups you will be working with most of the semester. Since it is a peer mentoring and alternative licensure class, that means that a lot of your work will be done through the PLCs, and more about that in the second half of this video today. First of all, we're going to start out by taking a look at Poverty in Mind by Eric Jensen. I think you all had a great discussion over the past week on Ruby Payne and saw the value as well as some of the drawbacks on what she was saying and what she was doing. And the first few slides in this lecture rely on what you were already talking about, the hidden rules of school and what's going on according through Ruby Payne's lens as that our children of poverty are experiencing. Right now we're going to take a look at Eric Jensen, who defines poverty as a chronic condition affecting mind, body, and soul resulting from multiple adverse synergistic risk factors. And so we're just going to, instead of reading Jensen's book, which we don't have time to do, we're going to take a look at his research on poverty. He talks about empathy rather than pity, caring, and high expectations. High expectations. And this is going to spill over into our growth mindset. So all of you who were advocating high expectations for all students can learn, and we should have high expectations for all of them. I think you will understand the value of Jensen's research and what he has to say. And I'm not going full screen with this right now because of the way this is working. So Jensen said there are 7 engagement factors, and some of them follow our hierarchy of needs. Some of you mentioned that students, Maslow's hierarchy of needs affects our students. If they're hungry, they don't learn, and absolutely true. I know you've seen that. We talked about the register, their vocabulary, and how they speak in school, as well as the effort and energy students expend. Some of you talked about how some students are their goals are very immediate, as far as rewards go, and the energy that they put forth in the classroom. Mindset is what we'll get at when we talk about Carol Dweck even more, and how we can improve that mindset, as well as their abilities to learn and the relationships with us and others, as well as how we can help keep that stress level positive for all of our students. And I think that's something to remember whenever we consider techniques for different groups of students, whether it be poverty or students with special needs. What works for certain groups of students also works for all students, okay? So chapter 2 of Jensen's book talks about how poverty can affect the academic performance of our students. And of course, this is approaching growth mindset, because the old paradigm said that our brains stay the same. They don't the growth isn't there. Jensen claims that some of those can be improved by reducing the stress from students' brains. And we can improve their ability to think critically by using respect and social skills and being inclusive in the classroom, as opposed to using sarcasm or confrontations, which again you all discussed, and those are all issues that are present in the classroom. And the more we think about how our behavior can affect our students' learning, the more we can work on improving it, right? Okay, So, Jensen says, as far as defining poverty, we talk about income levels, right? And we talk about people on assistance, but we also don't maybe consider in that category the working poor, those, those students who have parents that are working 2 or 3 jobs. And sometimes in the high school, we have students who are working 2 jobs to bring money home to the family. And then we have the homeless and the newly displaced students. You may wonder why you're getting students at different times of the years. And if you notice, sometimes it's around the first of the month. It's when maybe the rent isn't due and some families are being evicted and they've been moving around. There's, excuse me, all kinds of stories, and they may be going back and forth between schools. So that's all part of the poverty. Okay, so the effects, according to Jensen in his research, it affects their delayed language development, their thinking skills, their literacy rate. It affects behavioral and emotional disorders, and also it affects the percentage of them that need special education. Okay. And again, I don't know that these are any new factors that we need to think about. Sometimes they have shortened attention spans because they're hungry. And again, this can be affected by different times of the month depending on when the money is coming in. They may not have as much support. They may be in a school that has limited resources, guidance counselors and teachers that can help them. They may have things they're worrying about. There may be a high dropout rate for a variety of reasons, learning disabilities, and of course this illiteracy that has traveled with them since elementary school, okay, and maybe not an invested interest in the school community itself because of no participation in extracurricular activities. These are all ideas that Jensen has put forth as considerations for students in poverty and what can be done. And then of course there's the behavioral disorders that I think we see a lot in the classroom, the impulsivity, where they are acting out, they are talking, they just don't have any impulse control, and it may be because of a disorder as opposed to defiance. Okay. And then again, there's the stress disorder, not knowing what's going to greet them when they go return home from school. School is their safe place, and maybe not having a dependable adult for whatever reason, because that adult's working 2 jobs, because that adult has other issues. And then poor short-term memory, forgetting what to do next. If you think about a time when you've been stressed and what happens to your memory, that can happen to our students as well. And definitely high tardy rates and high absenteeism. And I think the absenteeism is one of the most frustrating factors, one of the most common factors, and it's an issue the schools need to address. We can't solve all of these, but again, making our scope of thinking, by broadening our scope of thinking, it can help us address these issues. If you have a student who's been absent for 5 days, the guidance counselor needs to know about it. You need to check and see if that student has been absent for 5 days in all of their other classes, and discover the reason. I had a student who was absent since we came back from winter break, and this is a student who is usually in class, a student who does come from poverty, who moved over break, and after questioning some other students who talked with him, he said he was going to be going to another school, but of course hadn't enrolled yet because he was still on my roster. So I contacted student services and said, this is a block class. He's within 2 weeks of finish taking the North Carolina final exam and finishing the course. He hasn't enrolled in another school yet. Please call his grandmother, who is the caregiver in that family, and have him return at least and take his NCFE and hopefully get a credit for this course rather than having to start over at the other school. So um, it's something constantly on our minds, but I do think the absenteeism is one of our major issues in schools today and has always been. I mean, it was 25 years ago when I began teaching, and it continues to be as I look through my grade books. So we do what we can do. What can a teacher do? Okay, how can we make smarter kids? Give them more to learn? Nope. They need they don't need more stuff, they need more capacity. Okay, so this is what Jensen says. We need to teach them some things as far as deferring gratification, helping them establish long-term goals, working with their processing skills and their attention skills and sequencing skills. So this is, what we do is we can build in ways to help them learn better. It's like teaching them to learn, okay? And using different methods. We've all talked about the variety of methods that we can use to improve learning, physical, and using Gardner's different spheres of influence, physical activity, arts, computer aids, varying our strategies and the way we present information to students, okay? What he says doesn't work is just worksheets, drill and kill, doing the same thing over and over again. Being forceful, eliminating those extra classes, becoming more hard-nosed as disciplinarians, decreasing interaction among students. That is, oh my gosh, when I put them in groups, they're a mess, they're not focusing. Well, listen to what they're saying and make sure that's not that they aren't really working together. Maybe they're just a little louder than usual, but maybe it's because they're working. And, reverting to that lecture, they may sit down and copy notes if you're lecturing for 30 minutes, but how good of a practice is that? How much are they really learning when you're doing all the work, when they're the ones that are supposed to be doing the work? Okay? So, here are some I'm going to let you go back over these and look at these keys to success, but realize what we're getting at and what we're approaching is the growth mindset, how we can help students change the way they learn, change their brain chemistry, try to get them to try harder and get those better grades. And you'll find some of that in the ideas of Carol Dweck that you're going to work on later. Here's some more strategies: acknowledging responses, being passionate about your subject. I think this is one of the keys to getting students to be passionate about your subject. If we don't care about it, why should they? Okay. The embracing mindset of change. Our brains, our IQs are not fixed. So what we're going to think about is how we can make change happen in our classroom and what we can do. And that's what the next session will be. And I'll let you read these on mindset, cooperative learning, how to create better memories in the classroom, and all these positive things that research has shown improves our learning. I'm coming to the end of the 15 minutes of this video, so I'm going to stop now and let you go back through this PowerPoint before you go on to Carol Dweck and growth mindset, and find out why and how our students can learn better and more in your classroom.